Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Zabby2012 and welcome to the channel, and welcome to a brand new series on Le Mans Ultimate called Road to Ultimate. In today's video, we're kicking the series off at Monza in the LMP2 alongside GT3s and some multi-class action. Now, this was one of my very first races in the LMP2 car on Le Mans Ultimate, but new Monza could not be passed up. So as we went green, I had an absolutely dreadful start, had slow reaction times which nearly made me vulnerable to the green and black LMP2 car behind me. Luckily managed to cover him off, unfortunately had the green one on my left hand side. So as we went side by side into turn 1, luckily he decided to back out. Unfortunately though, I ran out a little bit of talent and outbraked myself. After making it through turn 1 unscathed, I then had that famous green LMP2 car on my left hand side going into Variante. Right now, I was full commitment, hoping that we'd be a bit of trust and would make it through okay. Luckily, once again, he decided to pull out of it and let me by. Unfortunately, LMP2 out the back decided to take a little detour off the track, however, somehow made it unscathed. As we went through Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, I was starting to pull a lead. I didn't want to push too much though, because tyre saving and fuel saving in this game is absolutely critical. Now going into a scurry, I got a little bit loose in the entry and had a compromised exit, which left me vulnerable to the green LMP2 behind me. I basically let him pass, hoping to just sicken his slipstream and he can just tow me pretty much the whole race, and I would not burn as much fuel. Going through Parabolica though, the red LMP2 car behind goes a little wide, making him compromise to the green and black one behind. Now in my rearview mirror, all I could see was those two going side by side. So I kind of kept an eye out, hoping that maybe one of them won't lock up going into turn 1. But it is Monza. And right on cue, the green and black one goes around, taking out the leader. I could not believe my luck. Somehow avoiding all the carnage and just going on my merry way. At this point, I knew I had a race on my hands and I needed to just get some clear air as quickly as possible, but also keeping my fuel delta low. A few laps went by as I was just out in the lead, just maintaining pace, and the guy behind didn't really want to push. But then we started getting into lapped GT3s, and this is when your race can completely unfold on itself. Luckily got past the Corvette alright. It's basically turns into a game of luck though, because the last thing you want to do is catch a GT3 going into a slow corner and then you get compromised on an exit on a fast straight. Unfortunately, didn't have as much luck with this red Corvette, got slightly compromised going through Lesmo 1, but fortunately got through going through Lesmo 2 as you can see a wild beamer deciding he was no longer going to race and wanted to go to the beach. Simply perfection. And as you can see, going into Variante, the LMP2 that was chasing me, fortunately got compromised by that yellow Corvette. So the time I lost with the red one, it got made up because the guy behind lost so much more time. A bit rude from me with the flashing, but I needed to get past, and luckily luck was on my side, and going into the scary chicane, I got just in front as the Porsche got absolutely murdered by one of the LMP2 cars. And after watching that Porsche get absolutely murdered, I knew I had a bit of time to spare. So I just knuckled down and focused on my fuel saving and just prayed that every bit of traffic I came across, it would cause no issues at all. Once again, getting fortunate on traffic, passing that Ferrari just on the start of the straight. I could see a whole lot of GT3s up at the first chicane, but luckily I was far enough away that I got through there a-okay without any sort of compromise. Yet again, we had another GT3. Luckily, he was very, very considerate and got out of the way. Almost looked like he was going to turn in for a minute, but he didn't. And yet again, the two LMP2 cars behind me got super unlucky once again. And oh, there goes a McLaren, facing the wrong way. So far this race has been very calm, and not too much carnage, well, for me at least. Yet again, another GT3 being super kind and giving plenty of room and just pretty much letting me by, so I could just keep pushing forward and just build that gap. Unfortunately, couldn't get past the Ferrari, but didn't want to push my luck, so just hung back a little bit to try and get a perfect slingshot, which worked out completely perfectly, so I lost barely any time going down to Parabolica. Biggest goal was get past the Ford Mustang, which I managed to do. And as you can see, P2 was currently now 2 GT3s behind. So it was only a matter of time before hopefully he got held up by them. Unfortunately though, Parabolica is a pretty fast corner, so you don't lose too much time if you're stuck behind. And then back down into turn 1. Absolutely gorgeous camera angle. Fast forwarding a few more laps, we got caught behind yet again some more GT3s. Unfortunately though, my luck was running out. As you can see, going into the Ascari chicane, I got held up by the beam. But once again, P2 was getting held up just as much, so the gap wasn't really closing up. By this point, I was looking at my fuel, and my fuel was looking absolutely perfect to be able to go one extra lap on my fuel stop. So I was just hoping that the guys behind were pushing just a little bit too hard. Yet again, just swimming our way through all the lapped cars, hoping to just get a little bit of a break, which unfortunately on Monza just isn't really a thing. Yet again getting held up through the Ascari chicane, which compromised my lead just a little bit, as P2 got a very good run through there. At this point, wasn't stressing, but was a little bit cautious as that gap was getting close. And every time you went around the corner and you saw GT3s, the stress levels just went up that little bit more. Now this is a sight you don't want to see. A GT3 going into turn 1 and you're not able to get by them. As you can see, I got a little bit loose, which just did not help my case that much more. Right now, I was just hoping that he'd be predictable, stick to his line, and just let me by, which thankfully, he did. by this point, I was feeling pretty chuffed the way this race was going and with how we were making our way through the traffic. And as you can see by the delta, my timed gain, we're almost at 40 seconds. That is because my fuel strategy has worked, and P2 and the rest of the field have had to go on a lap early. So right now, I had to make this in-lap the best lap of my life, but unfortunately, traffic was not playing ball as we go into a scurry and got absolutely cooked by this Porsche. So right now, I had to make parabolic account and make it the best corner of my life to try and just not lose as much time as possible because I had such a big advantage right now. If P2 had a decent outlap, he would overtake me, and so I had to make this count. As we peel into the pits, I made sure I didn't speed, and we had to wait, just watching that delta come down. Got super fortunate with that green and black LMP2 car coming out, and oh, what's happened down there? The Porsche and that red LMP2 car have just run into each other. Right, we've been released from our pit box. The delta is 20 seconds and falling. Right now, I was stressing a little bit because that will fall very, very quickly. And then, boom! Just as we join going down into turn 1, there is P2. The strategy has worked. And we have maintained position. It didn't do a repeat of turn 1, lap 1, because if I'd done that, I probably would have lost my position. So right now, I was feeling pretty good. I had one lap on the rest of the field, but I had to keep my strategy the same, and I had to keep my fuel levels low, otherwise I would have to do one more stop. At this point, we were neck and neck. Any bit of traffic, any bit of slight overspeed into corners, my position was gone. And so this Ferrari in front of me was super worrying. Luckily, he let me by, but I knew he wasn't going to be the last one. As we fall down into the Ascari chicane, I was hoping he wasn't going to make a move because it would be a little bit risky and I did not want to get taken out this late into the race. He follows me through Ascari, hoping that he'd get a good run, but unfortunately on the exit goes a little wide and his rear kicks out, which was just that little bit enough to keep me out in front. I thought about covering to the inside, but I had faith that I was far enough ahead he wouldn't be able to do anything. So I didn't compromise my entry into parabolic. At this point, I was slightly concerned because I could see a GT3 up into turn 1, I could see 2 exiting the pits, and then I had P2 right on my butt. I get past 1. I thought about going around the outside of the Mustang, but didn't commit fully because I figured the door would close, which it did. Unfortunately though, I got compromised, and P2 went around the outside. As I was flashing this Mustang to get out of the way so I could get by, I go around the outside and then I see the Beamer, and so I take the inside line hoping the Beamer will go to the outside. And right now we are side by side and it only comes down to where this Beamer is going to go. The Beamer twitches to the right but then cuts to the left. What is he doing? Unfortunately, that is how the lead gets done. All my hard work, fuel saving, my efforts on turn 1, maintaining a gap, have just come unraveled because of a lapped car. So right now, I had to just push and just maintain at least a second on him, so he could just pull me to the finish line and hopefully I won't use as much fuel. Because as we stood right now, he had done 1 extra lap, which I wasn't sure if it was going to be enough So I needed to make sure I didn't push too hard and need to also go in. But in this sort of situation, it gets a little bit too easy to follow the carrot on the stick and just burn through your fuel. As he went a little wide into Lesmo 2, out of Lesmo 2, we went down to the Ascari chicane. I could see he was going to go side by side into the Ascari, so I broke a little bit early to give myself, hopefully, a decent run for Ascari. And I'd just get onto the gearbox of this Corvette, right at the exit, which we do. We get an absolutely awesome run, but unfortunately P1 is just that too far ahead that he is gone. Getting past this Mercedes was absolutely critical for the race, and luckily managed to go up the inside through Parabolica, which didn't compromise me as much as I thought it would. I'd maintained that gap for a few laps of just 1.5 to 2 seconds. I just couldn't get close because every time I did, we'd hit traffic. But here was my opportunity. Going into the Ascari chicane yet again, there was 2 GT3s, and P1 got absolutely compromised. I broke 50 or so meters early just so I could get a good run on the exit, and sure enough, it worked. I dart to the right, he gets blocked by the Lexus, and it was payback as good as it can get. I got compromised by a GT3, and so did he, so I just got my receipt back, some would say. And that was it. We were up into P1, but right now, all I had to do was focus on my fuel. At this point, I had 0.7 laps extra fuel. I had to get 0.3 more out of it. As that Beamer hits the wall, luckily didn't dart across, otherwise that would have been race ending for me. Unfortunately, P2 got past the Beamer relatively easy as well, so the race was still on. As we pass a Beamer that has decided he's going to take downforce to a whole new level by removing his rear wing. As we go into turn 1, the Mustang unfortunately wasn't going to concede and let me by, but that was okay because he completely outbraked himself and just went straight through the chicane. And oh, looks like P2's had a little bit of an error as well, which was music to my ears because I just had to survive and just keep going. I wasn't pushing very hard because I was purely just fuel saving, but it was just enough to stay ahead. But every time you come up to GT3s, it was a question of whether or not your race would end within a split second. Would they be reactionary and try and cover you, or would they just hold to their racing line? Unfortunately, in sim racing, it's a bit of a 50-50. But hey, who doesn't like a little bit of a gamble sometimes? The Ascari chicane ended up being a very good spot to end up having lap traffic because you could just brake that little bit earlier and not really compromise your exit. And with the time counting down and it looking like it's only meant to be 1 lap to go, it had come to the cliffhanger. Would P2 pit? And yes he does! P2 was pitting! I could not believe my eyes. Somehow, a strategy I just made up on the fly, hoping and praying it would work, has worked in my favour. The entire field had to do an extra pit stop. My fuel saving had paid off, and I could not believe it. So right now, we were on the final lap. All I had to do was bring it home. Would I be able to bring it home? Well, that's another question, because unfortunately, this is Monza. And when you have GT3s, anything can happen. So for the final time, as we went through Variante and Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2, I was just being extremely smooth, not pushing, just focusing on bringing it home. This moment right now would be what could turn its race on its head. GT3s going into Ascari Chicane. I had had very good luck at the Ascari Chicane, and I was hoping I would yet again. And by George, did we have good luck. And going into Parabolica for the final time, decided to make one more move, which almost ended badly because the GT3 almost closed the door on me. But he didn't, and he didn't, and it didn't matter because we finished P1. P1, baby! We converted a P1 pole into a P1 finish. Could not believe it. What a perfect race, what an absolutely perfect way to kick off the Road to Ultimate series. As you can see, 42 seconds. Strategy came in massive for this one. Alrighty everyone, hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow me on TikTok, Twitch, all the socials, all that good stuff. I've been Zabby, you've been lovely, and I'll see you another day.